Now we're going to talk about the instruments and the history of Malaysian music that inspired this poster. So there are many instruments that we used when making this poster, and one of them was the giduk, which is a double-faced drum. It's usually used during plays and puppet shows or when they're playing games, and the ones who play it are usually the mother and their children. Another tool that we used was the seruling. It's a wind-based instrument which the player blows into, and it was used to be made using bamboo wood. But nowadays, they use plastic, metal, and aluminium to develop this seruling. When the other instrument is the sape, also known as the sampe. It's a large lute which is usually made out of a hollowed wood, similar to a guitar but extremely large. And nowadays they're known to be at least 1 meter big, so that's quite huge. The last tool which I'll be talking about is the rembana. Rembana is a Malay tambourine. It's a Malay tambourine, and it is usually used during Islamic rituals known as the zikr. Malaysian music back in the days usually used to consist of classical instruments and was mostly used in ritualistic purposes or for ceremonial reasons such as a wedding. But nowadays it's turned way more casual, and it's heavily influenced by the international music culture such as guitar, rock, pop, and things like that. The Western culture has affected the Malaysian music industry. Nowadays, you don't see these Malaysian instruments, which I mentioned above, as commonly used during the production of Malaysian music. They usually just use guitars, pianos, and violins, just like every other country across the world. Another thing that they usually do is that they usually talk about music related to romance and to war.
The Chinese New Year music consists of a drum, which is the Chinese drum. The Chinese drum were used mainly during war, before battles, before when soldiers were going out to battle amongst other countries. But nowadays, they use it for a celebration. The gonchi gonchi, which means congratulation, and also wishing you wealth and prosperity. Another thing, which is the Xin Niam Kwai Le, which means Happy New Year. The Diwali, in regards to music, they mainly use the tabla drum. And they also use the conductor, who sit beside him, which they use their voice to instruct the musicians. The instruments that we used for the posters, we planned on using red, but we thought that gold was mainly present in all three holidays, which is the Hari Raya, the Chinese New Year, and the Diwali. And it was preferable since it links all with the others. Overall, most traditional musics of all holidays that I have just explained have been evolved to modern music, which not only highlights the love and celebration of the day, but also was created for the youths of this generation.
So the process of creating the poster started with research. The research was about music and traditional instrument that used for the celebration. So after doing the research, we found out there are many races and cultures in Malaysia, such as Malay, Chinese, Indian, and other races, and each race has its own celebration. After doing the research, we came up with different sketches that may possibly work for our purpose, but eventually we picked up one that worked the most. After creating the manual sketch, we created the digital sketch. The first digital sketch was basically simple lines like curved line, straight line, and simple shape like squares, triangles, and circles. So the next step was adding the details for each element, for the musical instrument and for the background as well. Then we added the colors.
Finally, we move on to the actual design. And firstly, we made the background have the classic blue color from the Malaysian flag. Adding details to the background, we included patterns from the three main cultures in Malaysia. The top section has the Chinese cloud pattern to represent the Chinese. The bottom right section has the flower patterns to represent the Indian culture from the famous design you can find in their palaces, floor designs, walls, and other forms of art. And on the bottom left, we have a pattern to represent the Malaysians. The design is referenced from the Islamic pattern you can find in almost all masjids. In front of the pattern, we have a wave design from the music notes we find in music sheets. We've kept the background a darker color so the viewer can focus to the instruments that come in the front. The instruments we've got are the gong, gadombak, gaduk, serling, sape sarawak, rabana, gambus, and kompang. For all the instruments, we paid attention to the colors by using multiple colors to represent different races and celebrations. For example, the yellow, red, and black represent the Kadazan Dusun people. We included light green, dark green, and yellow to represent the people of Malay. We included the colors red to represent the Chinese people for Chinese New Year, and we included the colors purple and yellow to represent the Indians. The red was included to represent the Chinese and the Christmas day.